All right, the VP. Is the VP on this call? Hello, VP.
Hello, good evening, sir. We can hear you, sir.
All right. Just a minute. Vice President. Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes,
Am I
we can hear you, sir.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, so without wasting time, we are going to start this program. And this is going to be a webinar. It's part of our webinar series. And as a matter of fact, it's going to be on WSIS+20, which I believe we are all familiar with. All right, so we need to honor our nation before we start this program. So we are going to recite the first stanza of the national anthem together after the count of 2. All right, here we go. 1, 2. Nigeria, we hail thee, our own dear native land. Though tribes and tongue may differ, in brotherhood we stand. Nigeria all, I'm proud to serve a native motherland. Okay, thank you very much for those that recited the national anthem with me. Give yourself a round of applause. We just honored our country, Nigeria. Yeah, so like I earlier said, this webinar is part of our webinar series on WSIS+20. And we are going to start without wasting time. I believe others will join us as we progress in this webinar, so to say. My name remains Engineer Kunle Olorundare, your humble servant, and at the same time, the president of Internet Society Nigerian chapter at this time. I want to welcome each and every one of us to this webinar on behalf of the Board of Trustees of Internet Society Nigerian chapter, and of course, on behalf of the Executive Council of Internet Society Nigerian chapter. Thank you very much. I hope you learn a lot from this webinar. All right. So the webinar, like I earlier said, is part of the WSIS+20 webinar series. And the title of what we're going to be discussing tonight is the evolution of WSIS+20, talking about the birth of Internet Governance Forum, a global platform for shaping the digital future. And the subtitle is going to be exploring its history, mission, multi-stakeholder model, and the global impact. All right, here we go. Sorry, just a minute. Can you see my screen?
Yes, it's up, sir.
Okay,
Yes,
just, I'm having a small glitch. Let me just resolve that. I don't know why my slide is sticky. 1 minute, please. All right. Okay. So first, I would like to talk about WSIS and how it all started. WSIS simply stands for World Summit on Information Society. And when it started 20 years ago. And I'm sure some of us would have heard about what is going on right now. We are trying to review what we have done so far in terms of what we have gained using the WSIS for the past 20 years. And WSIS, when it started, was actually started in two phases, so to say. And it was the summit of the United Nations, as it were. And the aim and objective was to bridge the global digital divide. And of course, we hoped as at that time that we'll be able to establish a shared vision for an inclusive global information society. You will agree with me that WSIS has come a long way, so to say. Because when it started when we were experiencing, a boom in the digital technology, and it was agreed that there was a need as at that time to see how we can come together and start to, talk about, all those digital technology, how they affect our lives, looking at the global south and of course the global north. When I say the global north, what I mean by that is most of the developed countries. And when we're talking about the global south, we're talking about, the developing countries, permit me to use that word, especially maybe some of us, most of the African countries, so to say, and, looking at the Caribbeans, and the convener was actually the International Telecommunication Union on behalf of United Nations, like I earlier said, and the goal was simply to harness the potential of information and communication technologies, which I think I mentioned earlier on. And for us, we believe that this will help us to, drive the common focus of achieving the Millennium Goal as at that time. And now, we're talking about the Sustainable Development Goal. We have left the Millennium Goal behind, so to say. So we're talking about the SDGs now. So of course, that means it has changed along the way. And the key concept was to establish what is now known as the multi-stakeholders model. And we're going to be talking about that because one of the beauties of the WSIS, so to say, or let me say, one of the result that we have gotten from the WSIS can be said to be that model, that's the multi-stakeholderism, which of course has helped us to come thus far. And as a matter of fact, multi-stakeholderism has helped us to achieve a lot. And that is why even we are able to come together like this to discuss WSIS, so to say. And if not for multi-stakeholderism, we may not be able to participate in issues like that. You know, it has brought a lot of stakeholders together, talking about the civil society, of course, the government as it were, then the tech community, the business community, the academia. And interestingly, I'm sure some of us may have heard that recently, even the teens are now saying, hey, we too, we want to be part of this conversation. Because if you look at it very well, I think the teens actually take a larger chunk of any country's population, so to say. That's a statement of fact. I mean, talking about the youth, yeah, you know, under the youth, you can now divide the youth into, you know, the older youth, right? Then the teens. So the teens now are trying to say, okay, we too, we need to participate, but you know that involves a lot of things, because you now have to start to look at their age. You need to look at, okay, I mean, their rise, because some of them may not have gotten to that age in which they can actually, you know, take decision for themselves. So a lot of things, but that makes it more interesting, so to say. So essentially, these are the two phases. So the first one, when the discussion actually started, it was in Geneva in the year 2003. And there, a shared vision, strategy, and principle were, you know, developed, so to say. Please, can we maintain decorum? Please, please, decorum. I can hear some background noise. Please mute your mic. Mute your mic,
Bashiru, please mute yourself. Ibrahim, quiet. Please mute yourself, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. So the phase two actually came up like, let's say 2 years later. That was in the year 2005, and it was in our own continent. I think that made it interesting. And as a matter of fact, that was the place where everything was finally, you know, defined. And we actually had what is now known as the WSIS, so to say. And the focus of that meeting was on the implementation, the follow-up, and of course, the financial issues, which has to do with how are we going to finance this. And it was there that the issue of the review were defined, talking about the review after the 10th year, which was done 10 years ago. And now the final review, which of course we are doing now. And I'm sure some of us must have been, please, decorum. Some of us must have been following that process. It started a couple of months back, so to say, and it's still on. And I think this will be on till December, so to say. So we have the privilege of, you know, contributing, making input into what is being discussed now. And one of the things that we have discovered within our own space is that this multi-stakeholderism is actually good for having conversation, you know, at the global level, so to say. And that has made it possible for all of us to be able to participate in the conversation. And such conversation is going to come up at the national level in about 5 weeks. Yes. And I'm sure some of you must have seen adverts, you know, talking about PRs for the Nigerian Internet Governance Forum. So that is talking about the IGF, which of course is a product of WSIS. I hope we are connecting. IGF is a product of WSIS. WSIS was developed in 2003 and 2005. And now this is 20 years after. And one of the things that was put in place 20 years ago was, okay, fine. After 20 years, we want to review this process. We want to see how far we have gone. We want to see what we have gained. And we also want to make a decision going forward. How are we going to continue with this process, or are we going to stop it? But if you ask me, I think this has been a wonderful process and has helped us thus far. And there is no gainsaying that continue this process is going to help, the global digital community as a whole, so to say. Although we know that there is another thing that is coming out, the Global Digital Compact, which we believe that it can work in sync together with the WSIS, so to say. Please, whoever is talking, can you mute your mic? Thank you very much. All right. Now let's quickly look at the core outcomes and the Tunis agenda. We've mentioned the Tunis agenda. Please, you are disturbing us. Who is that?
I think we have Mr. Bright Joseph to mute his mic, and Afis Bashiru. Afis Bashiru, you're actually disturbing this program. You need to mute your mic. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, so the core outcomes of the Tunis agenda, which of course I think I've mentioned briefly, include the issue of financing. We agreed on the need for ICT development, the funding, so to say, and of course the primary mechanisms, and of course talking about partnership. And the key focus for these emphasize the importance of security, combating spam, protecting consumers, and of course addressing, just a minute. Can you see my screen?
Yes, you can see your screen.
Okay, I think somebody distracted me now. The screen is off on my side. Sorry, just a minute. Okay, share.
The page we see, President, the core outcomes and the Tunis agenda.
Yeah, my screen is off from my end. I wonder what happened.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yes. Oh, no. Just give me 1 minute. Let me fix the problem. Share screen. Share screen. Where my screen? Okay, just a minute. Let me stop sharing screen and let me start it again. Okay, I think I'm back. Okay, so we are on the core outcomes, right? So we've mentioned the financing model, then the key focus, as it were. I think that was the last thing I said, talking about the security, combating spam, protecting consumers, and of course, addressing accessibility issues. And if you look at all these issues, these are issues that are very, very important to us in Africa, talking about security. And now that we're even in the 21st century, that makes it even more critical, because you agree with me that there is no way you do your routine in a day without doing something online. It has got to that extent. So the issue of security is very important. People use their phones to do a lot of things online, even apart from using it for, serious issues. The way we even socialize now has changed. There is a paradigm shift in the way we socialize. Unlike in those days that people used to come together, maybe sit down together, gist and tell stories. I'm sure some of us will be familiar with what is known as Tales by Moonlight in those days. But, nowadays, we don't talk about Tales by Moonlight anymore. You just, go on to Facebook and you start, gisting with your friends, or even some people that you may not be conversant with. Talking about acquaintances. And that is where the issue of even security is even more more important, because you don't even know some of these people. So you need to be careful the way you talk to them. You need to be sure of how you interact with them. So that makes it even more, serious, so to say. And the issue of spam has even come to a level that we need to start discussing it. And spam is one of those things that is being discussed, all over the world now, even at the level of ICANN. I mean, there are some working groups that are actually discussing things that has to do with, spam directly or indirectly. Then, of course, talking about the consumers. And if you see consumer, you see, I believe that we are all consumers. That is the way I see it. We are all consumers in the sense that if you look at all these digital products, and even now that we're talking about digital public infrastructure, right? We have the digital public goods. Each and every one of us is a consumer, because there is no way you will not use one of those digital products in a day. Okay, let's say you don't even use them every day, but at least in a week you use them. You want to do online banking, you want to send money to maybe your cousin, you want to send money to your aged one in the village. I mean, you just have to go online, apart from socializing with people. And even nowadays, okay, even see what we are doing now. In those days, we used to come together. Okay, we need to have a physical meeting. Let's look for a location. Let's pay for the venue. Let's pay for refreshment and so on and so forth. But the world has gone beyond that now, right? What we do nowadays is, okay, let's get a link, share the link, and let people come together, and let's have a digital meeting. And that is what we are doing now. So it has gotten to that level. And we need to be careful. Even, let's say, in setting up this meeting, we need to be careful, because we don't want spammers to come onto this platform and start distracting us. So you can see all these issues. All these are what key focus areas that we need to discuss every day, so that we can get the best out of them. We want to be secured online. And when you are secured, it is when you are secured that you now start talking about trust. Trust comes from having values when you have security. So they go hand in hand. Oh, I can only trust you when I've dealt with you and I've seen that, oh, yes, I think I can rely on you. Then we can start talking about trust. So the same thing is applicable in the digital world. Trust comes when you are sure that, okay, yes, you are secured using this platform. So these are the issues that we need to start looking at. And as a matter of fact, a lot of people have been having conversations around this, and there is nothing stopping us from having conversations around this. Why I'm bringing up all these issues is because I want us to know the key focus area, so that if you want to participate at any forum for WSIS where they ask you to contribute, you know those issues that are relevant to us. Then let's quickly talk about the action lines. These action lines are very important to us, especially in the global south, so to say, because most of them actually focus on what are actually relevant to our day-to-day life. Take, for example, action line C1. It speaks to the role of government and all stakeholders. Recall I mentioned we're talking about multi-stakeholderism now. And what multi-stakeholderism simply means is, okay, we have different stakeholders. Yes, we have different stakeholders, but we need to identify them. It is when we have identified them, and then we define them, then we can now say, okay, these are the stakeholders within our own community. And these are the stakeholders that are welcome to participate in the conversation. But of course, at the center of the discourse is the government. That is a statement of fact. So the government has to bring everybody together. That is the truth. However, we want a situation whereby when the government is, bringing us together, all the stakeholders are recognized. A very good example is we are talking about the civil society, that's ours. Then I think earlier on I mentioned the tech community. I also mentioned the academia, that is talking about the dons that work in the ivory towers. And of course, we also have the youth. The youth is also a stakeholder. It's a stakeholders group. Then I also mentioned the the emerging stakeholder. That is the things where let's see how it goes. It's becoming more interesting. And it may also interest you to know that even the aged ones, they're now saying, hey, we too were part of this and we must participate in this conversation. And for me, I think that is also very relevant because these are people that you can call digital migrants, unlike the youth that most of them are digital natives. So they too, they need to participate because they've seen it all. They've seen two parts, in fact, two faces. So they need to bring their own experience to bear too in the conversation so that we can have a robust output. You can see that it's becoming more interesting. And there is another group, which of course it's also coming up, and that is actually very prevalent in the global south. And that is, in fact, to define them, it's a bit, we need to be careful when defining that group. That is talking about people that you may say they are digitally illiterate. Digitally illiterate in the sense that they cannot use the digital devices. But does that mean that they are not part of the society? They are actually part of the society. So they need to participate in this conversation. We need to know how this is affecting them too. Okay? So that is action line C1. And that is the reason why I said this is very important for us in the global south. Then C2 has to do with information and communication infrastructure. This is also very important to us. Why? Because if you look at the infrastructure is what has brought the enabling environment for us to be able to talk about, digital technologies, talking about the digital ecosystem. Without the infrastructure, the ecosystem cannot even exist in the first place. I think we can see the relationship. So the infrastructure has brought the field, they have brought the enabling field for us to start talking about all those things. And a matter of fact, if you don't have the infrastructure, there's no way we can connect. If you don't have the infrastructure, we can't even have this kind of conversation we're having now. So this is very important for us. And of course, we need to talk about how these infrastructures are going to be secured. And I'm so much excited that even in Nigeria, we now are what is known as critical national information infrastructure. We have a bill on that has been passed into law. Kudos to our government. So I think that is also important for us. And we need to ensure that this infrastructure becomes more robust and robust every day so that it can reach even the people that we call the underserved and the unserved areas. Yeah, you may be living in the city and may say, oh, you have all the infrastructures, but then we need to start talking about the underserved and the unserved areas. And of course, that now leads us to even the next action line, C3, that's talking about access to information and knowledge. It is when you have access to the infrastructure that you can have access to information and knowledge, as it were. I believe we can see the connection. Then linked with that is the next action line, and that is C4. That's talking about capacity building, skills, and education. Now, we have the infrastructure. How many people can actually use all this infrastructure? How many people can actually use these devices optimally? Yes, I know most of us on this platform can actually use all the devices optimally, but what about those people in the underserved and the unserved area? And that is where the issue of, building capacity comes in. And building capacity can be looked at from two perspectives. The first perspective is, okay, the user perspective. We have the devices. Can we use the devices? That's on one hand. Then the other hand is, okay, the infrastructure, as it were. How do we maintain it? For us to maintain it, we need to build skills. We need to build the skills of our engineers. We need to make sure that they have the requisite skills to be able to maintain all those infrastructures. So that is the other perspective. And the next action line is C5. That is building confidence and security in the use of ICTs. And underlining this is the trust that I mentioned the other time. Before you can build confidence in any system, you must be sure that that system is secured. it is when the system is secure that you can start talking about confidence, that, oh, yes, I have confidence in this system, right? Excuse me, please, can you just give me 30 seconds, 30 seconds recess? VP, please, 30 seconds reset. I need to attend to something quickly.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, sir. Okay, so for the next few seconds, for those of us here, please, with a show of hand, if you are a member of the Nigerian School of Internet Governance, just raise your hand. If you are a member of the current class of 2025 Nigerian School of Internet Governance, please let me see your hands up. Thank you. I'll say that again because I'm taking. We're 6 persons. We have 6 persons hand up. We're taking a head count of members of.
Okay, I'm back. So please finish what you are doing. I think that is very important, VP. Finish what you are doing, then we continue. Thank you very much.
So look up till I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we have 12. Please take note that this particular head count will be posted on the platform for. Thank you, Mr. President. I'm handing over back.
My screen is hanging. Mine is hanging. I'm not able to raise my hand, sir.
Put your name there and put beside it class of 2025 NSIG. I'll repeat myself. If your system is hanging and you cannot raise up your hand, go to the chat room and type class of 2025 NSIG. Thank you. Mr. President, over to you, sir.
All right. Thank you very much, my dear VP. All right. So, yes, I think we are on action line C6. We just discussed, C5, building confidence and security in the use of ICT. So we're going to action line C6, that is enabling environment, policy, and regulation. And this is very important. Why it is very important is you will agree with me that in any ecosystem, the government plays the central role by leading when it comes to, policy and regulation. However, we believe that when such policies and regulations are going to be made, the issue of stakeholders forum is also very important. And sincerely, we need to give it to the government in that regards, because ISOC Nigeria has attended a lot of, stakeholders forum that has to do with this space, so to say. So that is very important. And I also want to encourage each and every one of us that, yes, it is not just about ISOC, advocating within the space. Even on your own, as an individual, when you hear something like public comment, as it were in ICANN, and I remember that I talked about this during the meet and greet session for the ICANN fellows. That is very important. Try to, contribute, let people hear your voice, let people know your opinion. And the beauty of such public comment, I'm talking about the ICANN own now, is that as an individual, let's say you don't even belong to any constituency or any stakeholders group or any advisory committee, as an individual, you can actually take a look at the public comment. And if it is of interest to you, you can make your comment. And I can assure you that your comment is going to be noted when they are doing the final review. And coming home now, talking about our own space too. If you listen to news, sometimes you hear something like stakeholders forum. Sometimes you hear public comment. And in the news, they'll say, okay, you have been invited to participate in such a forum. So as an individual, you can participate. And the beauty of participating is that your voice will be heard. You can always use that medium to contribute to building a robust policy or a robust regulation within our own ecosystem. And I think that is also very good. And that is one of the reasons why this action line is very key and important to us, because we believe that we should always contribute to such conversation so that we can help to shape the policies and the regulations that are coming up within the ecosystem. If you don't participate, other people will participate. And if you don't participate, if the policy comes out, do not complain. So it is our duty to ensure that we participate in all the stakeholders forum, policy development process within the ecosystem. Now going to action line C7, it speaks to that is action line C7. ICT applications, e-government, e-health, e-learning, etc., etc. I think I may not need to dwell so much on this because this is very clear. We've made mention of the fact that we are doing a lot of things online now. Some of us may want to apply for passport. You don't need to start to take a transport to Nigeria Immigration Office. All you need to do is just to go online and apply. And yes, sometimes now you can even stay at home and make your booking for health consultation online, so that you don't have to go to the hospital, then you start to wait for 3-4 hours. When they give you your time slot, you know the time that the doctor is going to see you. So let's say maybe when you are checking, you see 2 p.m., right? So the onus is on you to know that, okay, yes, if the doctor is going to see you by 2 p.m., perhaps you need to start your journey maybe at 1 p.m. And probably maybe where you are staying, you need 30 minutes to get there. And they would have told you that, look, okay, ensure that you clock in, let's say 15 minutes before your appointment time with the doctor. So these are some of the benefits that we are getting, and I think we need to hello, please. We need to continue in that aspect of our life. And of course, talking about the e-learning, excuse me, please. The host, please, can you mute everybody? And probably maybe just give me the privilege of muting myself, if that's going to save this situation. Thank you very much. The e-learning has come, a long way. And nowadays, you can even stay at home and do your master's program. You can stay at home and, maybe do your PhD and so on and so forth. So a lot of interesting things are happening even within the academic circle, so to say. So these are some of the things that we need to look out for. And for us in Global South, yes, we've started seeing the benefits of this action line. However, what have you observed? What do you think are those initiatives that we need to bring in so that we can improve this situation? Personally, as a student of management, there is one slogan I have, and I'm sure some of you may have heard me talking about it in the past before. There is always room for improvement, okay? Wherever you are now, don't be complacent. Always believe that there is something better than what you are having now. So that is what I believe as a student of management. And yes, for this particular purpose, I think this is very relevant. Then talking about action line C8, talking about cultural diversity and identity, linguistic diversity, and local content. This is very key to us in Global South. And I will explain. I'll try as much as possible to break it down. Look at what we are doing now. We are doing it in English, so to say, right? And there is no problem about that. Let's be sincere. There's no problem. However, like I mentioned the other time, under the stakeholders group and some of the emerging stakeholders group, we're talking about the digitally illiterate group, right? And if you look at that group, what it simply means is that they cannot use all these digital platforms very well. And why? Because we have cultural diversity. We have so many people. We have different languages, right? And I think that is why it is good to have a lingua franca. However, you will still agree with me that there are still some people that can still not come to that level of having a conversation using this lingua franca we're talking about English now. So we need to factor them into this space too. How do we take care of them? How do we ensure that they participate in this conversation? So that is also very important. And I've seen a lot of initiatives coming up now. I belong to a working group, and what we are talking about is how well, some people say we shouldn't be using the word decolonization again, because that is a word that is generally believed to be, maybe the right word, talking about decolonization of the internet. What that simply means is that, okay, let's see how we can even have the internet in our own local languages. Let the DNS be able to serve us in our local languages. Let the content be in our local languages. And I think in one aspect, ICANN is doing wonderfully well. And I'm sure some of us are familiar with the domain name internalization and email address internalization. What that simply means is that we're trying to see how we can write emails using our local languages. But beyond that, we still have to look at the other aspect that is talking about the content. This one I explained is known as universal acceptance, right, in terms of domain name system. But the other aspect has to do with the content online. Can my grandmother, go online and say, okay, me too, I want to browse, and she knows that she needs to click this because she's now digitally literate. However, what she's clicking is speaking to her maybe in our local dialect, that is, let's say, Yoruba or Hausa or Igbo. So she can actually read Yoruba and say, okay, this is a click here, that is, press this thing in Yoruba, something like that, and she clicks it, and the content comes up in Yoruba, and she can easily navigate through the internet. I know that there are some content that are now in local dialects, but what we are saying about this particular issue is that we want a situation whereby you can access any content on the internet in your local dialect, be it in Yoruba, be it in Hausa, be it in Igbo, be it in Fulani, and so on and so forth. So that's what we are saying. You can see that we still have a lot of work to do. So I belong to a working group that is trying to come up with that initiative. But I know it's a long walk, but a journey of 1,000 miles begin with a step. So we too, we can contribute in that regard, because we need this even more in the global south, like I said. And I will give an example. Take, for example, even the script that is being used for us, even if we're talking about some of these are local or indigenous languages, I don't want to use local. It is known as a Latin script. Yeah, Latin script is it's fantastic, it's good, it takes care of many diacritics, so many accents, and so on and so forth. However, you see, I agree with me that there may be some diacritics in other indigenous languages that may not appear in the Latin script. So we need to take care of that. And that is where this is very important for us, especially in the global south. So linguistic diversity and local content. I know VP is also doing a lot when it comes to content on the internet. So well done. Yes, well done. But we need to do more. All right. So C9 speaks to media, talking about traditional and new media in that regard. And yes, this also, I think it links with the cultural diversity that I'm talking about, because we are now trying to see, okay, all this media we're talking about, can we have them in, the traditional way, and so on and so forth. So that is also key for us as a matter of fact, like I said, all these action lines are very important for us in the global south. And if you are going to have a conversation anywhere, you can pick any one of these action line and expand it in such a way as to cater for the interest of Global South, so to say, right? And I think that is the benefit of having this conversation, so to say. Then talking about C10, ethical dimensions of the information society. Excuse me, please. Please. You are disturbing us. Somebody is disturbing us, please. Hello. Please mute yourself.
Unkoro.
Sorry.
Action line C10 is talking about ethical dimensions of the information society, and nothing is truer than this, even in this current era that we are. And I will explain that. What I mean by that is this. A lot of things are coming up now in terms of new technologies, and some of them have even become buzzword. And I'm sure as I'm talking now, the first buzzword that will come to your mind is artificial intelligence. It has come to stay with us because technology is always growing. We can't stifle the growth of technology. And the only thing we have to do is to live with the growth and see how we can ensure that the growth is human-centric. Let me put it that way. And if you're talking about human-centric growth, that is where you have to start looking at the ethical dimension. And the Office of the Secretary General of United Nations has done something wonderfully well, not quite too long. I'm sure some of us would have heard about the Summit of the Future, where Global Digital Compact was discussed, right? And what brought about Global Digital Compact was that, yes, we are now seeing an unprecedented growth in technological advancement and so on and so forth. And there is a need for us not to stifle, not to stop the growth of technology, but to see how we can make this growth to be human-centric, that will be of utmost benefit to the human race, right? So that is why the initiative GDC came up, and I think it's fit into the C10. And as a matter of fact, what some of us believe or think is that the GDC can actually exist, pari passu with the WSIS. So I will also want to crave an indulgence wherever you are having your conversation. Yes, some people may say, oh, yes, we have the GDC now. Yeah, the GDC is going to take care of everything. What we believe is that GDC can work, in sync with the WSIS, because there are some initiatives in the WSIS which we believe we still need them, and they're still relevant to our society, and they still need to grow with us. And a very good example is the IGF, Internet Governance Forum, which of course uses the multi-stakeholderism that we're talking about. ICANN too, by the way, let me quickly mention that. ICANN, that is Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers, also uses multi-stakeholderism, and that is the reason why you see all those stakeholders group defined under ICANN. You see the supporting organizations, where if you look at them, you see that you definitely fit into one of them. Is it ASO? Is it CCNSO? Is it GNSO? You definitely fit into one of them. Or if you come to the advisory committee, you definitely see that you can fit into one of them. Yeah, like I said, the government is always there. That's why you have the GAC, the Government Advisory Committee. Then, of course, the issue of trust security is always very, very important. We have the ISOC, Stability and Security Advisory Committee, takes care of that. And traditionally, some people say, okay, that is more of cybersecurity. Then in between these two, you have the RSAC, that's Root Server Systems Advisory Committee, which of course deals with, issues that border on even the foundation of the internet we're talking about, that is talking about the domain name system, the servers, and the root zones, how we're going to ensure that they are okay. So all these are very, important, so to say. And if you look at all this coming together, all the stakeholders coming together, we need to now see how we discuss and be sure that we're on the same page in terms of ethical dimension. You can see dimensions. Dimensions in the sense that each stakeholder is coming together. Is coming from his own perspective to contribute to the conversation, which I think it's very important. Then C11, that's international and regional cooperation. Yeah, this is very important. And if I may just quickly explain this using the cascade of IGF as a very good example. You agree with me that we have the global IGF at the top. That is the one at the top, right? Then we have the regions. That is African IGF, North American IGF, Asia Pacific IGF, and so on and so forth. Excuse me. That is at the regional level. Then under the regional level, you see have the sub-regional level. That's talking about the region, the sub-region you are from. Is it West? In Africa, let's use our own continent as a very good example. You have the West, South, East, and North, right? Then under that, we now have the national, talking about our country, which of course, I think I mentioned the fact that the Nigeria Internet Governance Forum is going to be in a couple of weeks. I think from now, today is 18th, so I think in about 5 weeks. So the process is going to start, which of course is starting with the Nigerian School on Internet Governance, to the youth's conversation, that's the Youth Internet Governance Forum, then the women too. Of course, they have a stake in it. Then all of us will now come together under the Nigerian Internet Governance Forum, which is going to be the final conversation. So you can see how this, is forming the international and regional cooperation we're talking about, right? And of course, we also believe going forward that probably maybe there should now be subnationals. Although these are conversations that are on, maybe at the state level, we should be having, I don't know, maybe Lagos State IGF, maybe Sokoto IGF, so that it will now be like a bottom-up approach. Whatever is discussed at the level of the state, will now be brought to the national. From the national, it goes to the sub